All right, so today we're going to do a gym owner breakdown with Josh O'Hagan. So, Josh, can you tell us a little bit of background about your gym? So, where you're based, what your model is, how long you've been open, all of those kinds of things.
Yes, so my name's Josh O'Hagan. I'm the owner of Intent Gym Belfast. We're based in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and we've been running now for coming up to 5 years. The doors officially opened on the 1st of June, 2021. And when we first started, it was skint, had no money, had a loan out for 20 grand, and all the equipment was leased. Yeah, in that time, we've grown massively, all
Yeah.
thanks to the Gym Owner program. And before that, we'd tried some other agencies and different things and strategies that really didn't pay off. But then once I heard some friends doing well with Gym Owner, I decided to get a call with yourself and find out a bit more. And here we are, I think 3 years later now. And
Yeah, I think it's
been one
about
of the
3 years.
best decisions that I've made for my business.
That's awesome, mate. All right, so when we kind of first spoke, probably 3 and a bit years ago, like where was the business at that point? You'd been open a little while. What was it looking like? What was challenging? What was tough around then?
So within the first year, I was struggling to get over, I'd say 60 members, if I'm really honest. It was just me. I had a woman working part time who was also full time in another career and had a child. So she really
Mm.
couldn't commit that long. She was a brilliant coach, brilliant human, but just didn't have the right system in place for her or myself to build or grow the gym. So, I was getting the odd morning off a week, but then it was solely just me trying to coach all those clients. And, before my model wasn't right, the
Mm.
time of the sessions wasn't right. All of that just didn't add up. And it was only until I got speaking to yourself that I really understood how much I could actually stretch the model and actually add more value with a better model as well.
Yeah. So what do you think was like the reason for being stuck at that, around the 60 member mark? Was it, not getting enough leads and clients to grow at that pace? Or did you feel like the gym was at capacity because of the way the model was set up, or just like a combination of things?
It was a combination of things. I think I was spinning so many plates and I felt, I was very burnt out. I was also running a model of 6-to-1 coach,
Yeah.
which then capped me at a certain amount of members. I can't remember exactly what it is now off the top of my head, but I know it was a lot smaller than what I do now because now we do 12 per one coach, which is basically double what we'd started with, which then obviously can increase the revenue and then help support the business in so many different ways. One thing that we love doing at Intent is creating experiences, and with higher membership and higher number of people in the gym, we've been able to create some incredible experiences for our members.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think like it's a pretty common thing across the board that, you open a gym, you kind of get from zero to around the 50 member mark is like the typical number we see through quite a lot of word of mouth or like previous clients you had that, when you were
Yeah.
PTing and their friends and stuff like that. And then you hit a point where you have this kind of natural plateau where your monthly cancellations are kind of matched with the amount of like signups you're getting through organic content or word of mouth and those kinds of things. That's one of the things that typically hits. And then, as you said, like the model side of it as well, we all have, when you start, you have this dream ideal of how many clients per coach is going to be. And sometimes that doesn't actually set you up to be able to hit the revenue targets that you want. And then I think, kind of like you alluded to there, if you don't have systems and the right team members in place and everything like that, then you can end up just being stuck doing everything yourself. And that
Yeah.
kind of caps the growth of the business because you can only obviously do so much on a week to week basis.
For sure. And it also caps you as being in terms of being a leader. When I first started out, I came from being a personal trainer. I was personal training for like 8 or 9 years prior to that. And I was solely just working on myself, sole trader, building a business within other gyms. But now, being a gym owner and being a leader of a team is so different. And I've had to go through a real identity shift, which you guys have helped with massively. When I first started, I was Josh O'Hagan, personal trainer, who now owns a gym. Whereas now I'm gym owner Josh O'Hagan, who runs a team and runs a gym. So I've gone literally from what you said at the start, from being a highly stressed operator to now an owner who has vision and has clarity around the business. And to be honest, mate, I'm very thankful for it all. It's been life changing.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that's definitely like a big shift that a lot of people you kind of have to go through really. Like a
Yeah,
lot of people open a gym and you're a coach, you're a PT first, who, as you said, now I'm a PT that happens to own a gym. But that does only take you so far, like having that identity of things being that way in terms of the order of importance. And I think the gyms that we see like yourself that have succeeded really well are the ones that have that shift where they go from, as you quite rightly put it, from the day-to-day coach and operator to someone who's in the owner who runs a business, and that business happens to be a gym or a fitness business, so to speak. So you mentioned obviously that identity shift, and obviously, we know the business has grown since then. So along the way to get to like, where you were at that point to where you are now, like what are two or three kind of big changes, big things that we implemented that you've put in place to make that progress?
Solid systems at the start. Whenever I first started, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was only a couple of months into the program and I broke my leg,
Yeah.
which was a nightmare because obviously I didn't have many staff in the gym. We actually had to do laptop sessions at some stages, and yeah, it was very ropey. But that enabled me then to really look at your systems that you have in the trainings, and that's I think what really set the exponential growth then was sitting down and actually taking a couple of steps back and rebuilding. So rebuilding the likes of my landing pages, rebuilding the likes of the offer, looking at my pricing model and how we could structure the pricing to better the business. They're some of the biggest things that I changed in the first early days. And then
Yeah.
later down the line, it was hiring the right people and knowing when to hire and how to hire as well. I first started by getting staff members in who I was paying what I used to charge PT rates for, but they didn't have to find any clients and I was doing all the work and then burning out because I was paying way too much cash at the start. Whereas now my staff members understand everything. They're on a proper salary and structure and they give more to the business because they see everything behind the scenes and they see all of the work that it takes. So I do think, the learning I made on staff structure was really beneficial for me.
Yeah, I remember that with you breaking your leg, and it's kind of a nightmare when it happens, but a blessing in disguise in some ways from the business side of it because it really
So
forces you to realize, like, shit, like if I can't do everything, then there's a lot of holes here. And then putting in place the right systems and processes and being able to pair like team members with that, it kind of
yeah.
fast tracks you through that process of getting to the position where the business can be better structured and then operated by somebody else as well.
Yeah, there's just so many different systems and structures that you have that were really amazing at the time I needed them. It was like almost like you knew exactly what I was going through, which obviously you did because you built a successful gym business yourself. The quick win stuff at the start was massive for me because I was in debt and danger. I was, in a real bad place financially. Luckily, I took that loan out and was just about paying it off. But then you put a strategy in place at the start of the program, which I'm probably sure you still do now. That's incredible. So if anyone is watching this, like you're going to join this program and straight away in the first month have made your money back and then be able to actually look at the business in finer detail and start to build systems to create freedom for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, we put those things in place at the beginning for the gyms that need it. So, like, if people need a quick influx of cash, there are, two or three different things that you can do and implement quite quickly to have that happen. And then
Mm.
that which it did for you as well, takes the pressure off so you can then get a little bit out of that like fight or flight mode and think about things a little bit more logically as you're kind of looking to move
Yeah.
forwards with it. So, all right, perfect. So, sorry, we were going to say something.
Yeah, like if there is any gym owners watching this right now, you're going to have certain thoughts in your head that you think you know how it's going to run. You're going to get your first X amount of clients and I'm going to pay this amount. But there's so many hidden costs to running a brick and mortar business that you're not going to realize until you actually build the business. And that just blows your thought process out of the water and you have to just completely change how you think about things. What
Yeah.
I £1 does now in a business is not £1, that I pay myself personally. It's completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely like a big realization when, especially people who move from being a PT to a gym owner, you think, all right, well, there's the rent and I buy the equipment and that's it. But then, as you said, there's obviously so much more that goes into it, and that is a surprise for some people. But then it forces you again to assess your model and be like, maybe I can't run 4-to-1 or 6-to-1 at these prices, and maybe I do need to change it so I can utilize the entire facility as much as possible and service 2-3 times the amount of members in the same space. So I'm getting more revenue and more capacity out of the square footage and the resources and the expenses that I'm already using. All right, perfect. So in terms of like where things are at now, like members, revenue wise, free time, autonomy away from the business, like what does that look like for you now versus what it was in the beginning?
So when we first started, I look back, we were on 60 clients, 60 clients. I were scraping 130 within the gym, and that's about 115 to 120 active. Now that's with a high-end membership rate. We charge quite a high price for our membership because they get a lot of value and they get a lot of quality coaching. And the way we have things set up is that we do different events through the year that they don't have to pay for. Different things like, barbecues and things like that that we run, as well as our actual gym coaching as well. So with that, our revenues, our highest month there was just under 40K in the month. And consistently now we're making 20 grand a month.
Nice, mate. Really, really good. So what for you personally as the owner, obviously you're the personal trainer on the gym floor doing everything in the beginning, as almost every gym owner is, but like what does your typical weekend day look like now in comparison to that?
So when I first started, I was paying back so much money that I had no time to do anything that wasn't related to making more money within that gym. Because I was paying a loan off of 20 grand, it was something like £500 a month, and then leased equipment, which is another £500 a month. I then had to take a cash advancement out. So I actually had to get a cash advancement, which then anything that I earned, I was paying back 20% already on top of the loans and the leased equipment.
Yeah.
So I had no money at all. I was literally living on beans and rice and trying to get as much cheap protein in as I could and sleeping on the gym floor at times. To now where, I'm doing mixed martial arts most days. I go to the gym in the morning time and set up the team and take a couple of sessions myself. I don't work evenings anymore, Monday to Friday. I work on a Sunday now just to set the business up, but we have a couple of coaching hours. So the way I've set this up really benefits my life. I take my dog for a walk, most days, multiple holidays through the year. The team understand that, they have holiday, but also so do I. And I don't need to be contacted whenever I'm away too. So I can really switch off from the business and come back with a clearer head. And the team as well, we've got a small, reliable team now where they get to have their time off too, and they're happy with their quality of life as well. We had a woman, Joanne, who's one of my previous clients, one of the first clients in the place. She went from being a headmaster of a primary school to now working with me full time. She's left her job of 20 years, 40, 60 hours a week, up to 60 hours a week, and now working 25 hours a week with me and loving life. It's been incredible. It's been a full 360.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's like one of the unspoken or quite often unspoken changes that gym owners go through and have like a massive benefit when you do all of the work that you've done. It's easy to talk about revenue and member growth and all these like kind of headline numbers that people would look at and think that's awesome. But then to be in the position, because I obviously knew that about you already, like, you're doing mixed martial arts, you have quite a lot of free time away from the business and travel and all that kind of stuff. And like, it's such a great spot to be in as a business owner to have. And I always say this, like, use this term, the freedom of choice, to be able to go and do that, to go and do MMA in the middle of the day, to go and walk the dog when you want to take time and go on holiday and know that like everything's going to continue operating, the gym's going to collect cash, the members are going to get results, all of those kinds of things.
And not only that, it's running better as well. And my clients understand that whenever our coaches are refreshed and have had their own time, that they come back in and they're in a better mood. They're taking harder sessions. They're seeing the guys as best they can. There's a common thing in my place whenever I come back from a trip away that you don't want to be in Josh's session because he's just good mood, that the session's going to be brutal. So yeah, it's been a really class thing to realize that also my clients understand the benefit of me being an owner rather than an operator, because they've seen me highly stressed, and they much prefer the latter of the two. I think, tying into that is it's identity. I think for me, it's been really challenging this year because I'm a grafter. I work hard and I'm used to getting up at 4:35 a.m. in the morning and working right through to 8 p.m. So now it's like, I don't have to work that hard. I work smarter, but now it's a real identity shift for me. And I've really come to realize that smart working is so much better than hard working. And as long as you combine the two in a nice way, it's going to create a beautiful outcome.
Yeah, there's definitely like a tendency to equate like hours worked and effort put into the value that you provide. But obviously, as you move from that operator role, the value that you provide to the business detaches somewhat from how many sessions you deliver and how many sales calls you make and all of those kinds of things, and more to like the bigger picture, like strategies that you apply to the business that is like more leveraged in terms of it takes less work necessarily to do it, but it has a bigger impact on the business overall.
It's going to feel, if anyone is going to invest in this program, it's going to be a lot of work at the start, but of course it's going to be a lot of work at the start. How do you expect to change your life if it's easy? But like you've just said there, yes, the systems are hard to build, but then they're built, and they're only every so often you have to fine tweak them. Like right now we're doing all the meta ad stuff again, but it just helps so much having strong systems within your business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, mate. Last couple of questions then. So the first one is just, what would you say, the top 2, 3 biggest like benefits or results that you've had from the relationship that we've had working together so far.
Always having someone who knows what to do next, and that being yourself or your team, Cal, Jess. You've got such a strong team of people helping us there that, I'll put a message out and it's replied to within hours, sometimes within the hour. And it's a really good answer. And it's not just a quick DM, it's a video reply with, you need to go and do X to achieve Y. And that for me goes without saying that it's been one of the best mentorships that I've ever done. I've done quite a lot of mentorships now in my business as a whole. And I would say that this one's probably been the strongest in terms of an actual tangible outcome at the end of it. And then for me, like we've said quite a lot, is just the amount of time I've created. I went through a family death there, and that for me was a really challenging time. And having built the systems that I built, I was able to actually take time off and grieve and have time away from work. So, we're all going to go through hard things in our life. And if our business is already really hard and we can't take time away from that, that's going to be really detrimental to your health, to be honest. And I think realistically, if you're in this game and you've got a business right now, you don't need, like, you need to do this. You don't have the chance to not do this, because everybody else is growing so fast. The world is changing so fast. The industries are changing so fast that we need to stay on top of our game if we're to actually make ends meet and actually have a good quality of life as well.
Yeah. Hey, great advice. All right. Final question is, you've obviously come a long way since you opened the gym back in 2021. So what's like a piece of advice that you would, that you've learned over the years that you would tell like a gym owner who's, where you were 3, 4, 5 years ago that you wish you knew back then? So something that they could take some insight or some value from.
Probably going to be slightly different than what you've got before, Mike, but I would say not too close to your clients. Like, don't become best pals with your clients, because at the end of the day, you need to have that relationship where you're their coach. And if there's blurred lines there, that can actually affect your business. And firsthand, it's affected mine in the early years. And also just be careful with, in general, the people around you. You got to be so careful about your circle. And now, compared to 5 years ago, my circle I can count on one hand. Compared to when I first started, I thought everybody was my friend. But you'll soon realize when you open a business and you start to get some success, sometimes people don't really like to see that. And you're best just keeping your circle as small as possible to the people that you can really rely on.
Yeah. Right. Brilliant advice as well, especially on the not getting too close to your client side of things. I think a lot of gym owners do fall into that trap of like, thinking because you have like a relationship with clients that you're all best mates and stuff like that. It is and needs to be a transactional element to it where there's an authority part where you're the, as you said, you're the coach, you're the gym owner, and you're there to deliver on, what they're paying for. And you're not like buds kind of thing. And viewing it in that way can create more issues than benefits, as you found out, and I've certainly found out over the years as well.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm Mr. Grimm and I'm not like fun with my clients. Like, by all means, we have the most fun, but we understand when to call it a day as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a boundary thing, isn't it? It's like there's a line in the sand where like the relationship doesn't cross past that.
As a
100%
business owner, you need to have boundaries.
Yeah, definitely. All right, perfect, mate. I appreciate that.